Hey y'all, Melissa here with you today, and today's project is a headband. I like to wear these when I'm working out because I can't stand to have hair in my face if I'm running or at the gym. And the method that I use to make these, I like to call it a magic tube, can also be used to make scrunchies or infinity scarves. So I'm going to have some links below to all three of these types of projects, and check those out, and then I'll meet you back at the camera to talk supplies. If you're going to make a headband, the supplies you'll need: a piece of fabric. It needs to be stretchy knit fabric, and it needs to be 18 inches long by anywhere from 4 to 8 inches wide. It's going to be dependent on how wide you want the headband to be. Your final headband will be half the width of your fabric, minus about 1 inch or so. You'll also need a needle and thread and a safety pin. So the first thing you want to do is take your fabric and you're going to fold it in half, right sides together, and you want to match the long edges. And then we're going to stitch, leave a gap, and then stitch the remainder of that edge. The next step is going to be to turn the tube halfway. And I'm going to show you how to do that with a safety pin. So you're going to weave your safety pin in through the end there, and then you want to take that to the inside of the fabric and use the safety pin to pull fabric into the tube. And make sure you do this on the end that does not have the gap in it. Once you have your tube halfway turned, you're going to want to match up those seam lines and the raw edges. So there we go. I've got seams and raw edges matched up. And then we're going to stitch all the way around that tube. To machine sew your tube, you are going to want to put the presser foot inside of the tube and then sew around. If you are using a stretchy fabric, make sure you're also using a stretchy stitch. Once your fabric tube is sewn together around the ends, you are going to turn it right side out through your gap. Now, if you're making a headband or an infinity scarf, you are going to just fold those last raw edges around the gap in, and then you are going to ladder stitch that opening shut. I am going to show you how to do an invisible stitch. This is also referred to as a ladder stitch, or you might see it called a slip stitch. And basically all those names are different ways to refer to the same stitch that helps you finish a seam invisibly. So we're going to imagine that this is the seam here that I need to finish. Let's pretend that I had sewed and then I've got a gap left in the seam. And what you're going to want to do is take your thread and you want to knot the ends and then come up with your needle from one fold so that you can hide the knot inside there. Then what you're going to do is you are going to go straight across from that thread, and you're going to take about a 1/4 inch stitch with your needle parallel to the fold of the fabric. And you'll see how that makes a stitch straight across. Then come straight across from where you just came up and do the same thing. When you get several stitches going, you can see why this is called a ladder stitch. You just want to do that, continue across the whole part of the fabric that has a gap in it to finish off that gap. Now here is the magic part. Once you've got that whole ladder done, if you pull the thread, you'll see how it starts to gather up the fabric, but when you pull it flat, you'll notice that the thread has basically disappeared. If I had used a thread that matched my fabric, as you should, this would fully disappear inside that seam. And we had the seam flat, you can see how that stitching is hardly visible. Finally, what you want to do is wherever your needle last came out, take an extra little stitch there and then wrap or take your needle through that thread a couple times so that you can knot it before you cut it off. And that is how you do an invisible stitch.